So I'm on my way home, but I'm too hungry to just go straight home. So I gotta grab me a bite to eat because I'm hungry today. I'm hungry today. I got off. Yeah, I was supposed to be off of work 2 hours ago, but I just can't. I'll be like, gotta do this, gotta do this. Oh, I had contractors out there. Oh my gosh. It almost reminded me of the old days, but no, it wasn't that bad. It's just I get so busy with processing bills and dealing with plumbing maintenance and finding out what's what and crawl spaces and going through doors that lead other places and asking people, is your water hot, warm, and leveling apartments ah and then sending. You know what? I'm a jack of all trades for real. I really am. I really am. I'm a jack of all trades because I just did some marketing just now, creating flyers and things. Then I spoke to the courtesy officers, not security, but courtesy officers about the theft that went on with those teenagers still in that car, just like that. And then sent out leases, did the whole spiel. Did my thing today, y'all. I did my thing today. I had a lady that came in and she was talking with me and she asked me if I was married. I hate when people ask me if I'm married. Hope you had a blessed day too. I hate when they ask me, are you married? If you don't even see, okay, if you see a ring on my finger, why even ask? If you don't see a ring on my finger, why even ask? So I was like, what is that, believe so? I'm like, yeah, I haven't seen my husband in a while though. Oh yeah, well, what's going on? And then it's always, so you're divorced. I'm like, legally, yeah, but see, this is the crazy thing. If I was a Muslim, somebody can respect the fact that I don't eat pork or I do Ramadan or something crazy like that. If I was uh any other religion, Hinduism or whatever you want to call it. Hold on, y'all, because I'm hungry. I'm hungry, you guys. Yes, may I please have two veggie fiesta burritos, please?
Anything else?
Some hot sauce would be great.
You said hot sauce and gravy.
Not gravy, but
Okay, I
hot
got you.
sauce would be great. Or
I got you.
the hot sauce.
Some beef
Make it the
jerky.
fire sauce.
I got you.
Thanks. I'm glad they changed the total because it used to come up to 666 and I was like, oh no. Yeah, they changed the total. I guess they brought the prices down because they were like, hold up. Because every time when I would see 666, I'd be like, oh, y'all got to round that off. Add something else on there. So anyway, let me get my money ready. So the lady was like, you mean so you're married? So of course, because she was married before, she had a huge, argument about it and was like, nope, I got married twice and my second husband was my real husband. Evidently her second husband, he died some years ago. And I was like, well, if God showed you that, he showed you that. But my religion, my religious beliefs, as long as my husband is alive, the man I married, I can't get remarried. And she was like, oh, that's not, and I'm just saying, it would be wonderful if it was true. It would be wonderful if I can just go out and remarry again. But that's not how things go. So I didn't even go into details because you don't want to offend those who basically are offending you in this line of business. You get what I'm saying? I'm just listening to be like, okay, well, my religious beliefs, as long as he's alive, I can't get remarried. So that's why I'm single. And she was just like, what? So you haven't? No, I haven't. I know y'all been committing adultery since the beginning of times. I know. It ain't changed because you did it 30 years ago. But I just, I don't feel like going to hell. Y'all know I'm saying? Like, I don't feel like going to hell, baby. I don't feel like touching nothing that's hot rocks. I just don't feel like feeling the wrath of God. So I'll stay away from adultery and any other thing that can land me away from God. Like I'm good. I'm good. No, I'm not a vegetarian. I don't eat meat. I eat fish and shrimps, and I still love crabs. I'll eat some seafood, but I don't do meat.
There you
I'm finding you.
go. 613.
Okay.
I'll get you some sausage.
Yes, some fire sauce, please. Thank you very much.
Yeah, man.
All right, thank you. You have a great day. Well, great afternoon. He hooked me up. He hooked me up. I needed some. I'm just so hungry. I didn't eat. Y'all, I don't even want to say what my diet was today because I did absolutely awful. That's why I got to hit the gym and get serious about this stuff. I'm not going to tell you what I ate today, but since I mentioned it, I might as well. I had nothing but candy, chocolates, Starburst, energy drinks, and coffee. Energy drinks and coffee. Like I ate so unhealthy. Now here I am eating a burrito. I need to literally go jogging around a block tomorrow. So yeah, so she was just like, and it was more like I ain't really going to so much, but she was just like, no, no, that's not your husband. He's not your husband no more. Not if you got divorced. Not if you got divorced. If he divorced you, that means he's not your husband anymore. I'm like, tell that to God, honey. If that's the case, I wouldn't be single right now. I wouldn't be remaining unmarried. Excuse me, y'all. I wouldn't be. I would have been remarried if you could do such a thing. You think for one moment I would have been sitting around here when I could have had a hired help? So let me stop. I could have had me another man. Do you really think I would have been sitting around here doing yard work all by myself, working these jobs the way I'm working? Do you really think? No, but I got it good though. And I had to just be very careful because again, like I said, this woman got married before, so and the man that she married, he passed away. The man that she committed adultery with. And I'm like, Well, God showed me something else. I use my religion. Because, we got to respect everybody, right? So please respect, you know. And I dread when people ask me that. I dread it when I moved to my new neighborhood years ago. And I'm meeting the next door neighbors, and they're like, "Oh, how's it going? Okay." Shaking hands. Okay. So where's your husband? I'm like, he's on a very long vacation. He's on a very, very, very long vacation. Now, I have used that before. I've had people say, "So where's your husband at?" He's on a very long vacation. Some people may think, he's locked up or something like that. No, he's. Mm-hmm. All right, I'm just eating. I'm so hungry. But she was like, "No, that's the first thing they asked." So are you married? You know what? What I'm gonna do next time? I'm just gonna say, "Yeah, I'm married," and hopefully it'll stop right there. But I have a feeling somebody's gonna be. So what does your husband do? What am I supposed to say? I don't know. I don't know. You don't know what he does. People be nosy. People be wanting to know your business. I mean, they be wanting to know your business. My mother doesn't ask me if I'm going to date again. She knows my stance on marriage. But you know what was so surprising about my mom? Just the other day, I overheard my mother conversation, and she was like, "No, because I'm doing this and doing that." She was like, "Because my husband had died." I'm like, "What? You claiming dad as your husband?" She must have slipped out, but she said her husband. I said, "Oh, uh-huh." She didn't say ex. She said my husband. I said, "Whoa." For the longest time, she would say, "That's not my kin," and I'd be like, "I am." You Christians can't only believe one side of the story now. You have to believe everything that Jesus said. Okay, you can't just only want to take one and then don't want to believe the other. You can't do that, Christian folk. You have to understand that remarriage is adultery. Some people don't get that. Some people be like, "What are you saying? That I can't get remarried again? I'm going to be single forever?" Driving too close. Y'all, it's raining out here. I got to get home. I got to get home. This is when the maniacs are out here. They like to do 200 miles an hour going nowhere. a witness relocation program, they'll be looking at me sideways. It's hard to I try to be truthful, but not too, you know what I'm saying? I don't try to give too much information. But I guess today I did. I didn't say why, but my husband is still there. Because she was like, well, that's not your husband no more. Okay, you can call him that. Not my husband no more. Okay. I'm not a title person. Tell that to God, though. Tell God that. Okay. Because when I asked God, he snatched me and he showed me dream after dream after dream and scripture after scripture after scripture after scripture. I was the one who was seeking to be unbound. I was looking for a way out. Looking. And when no scripture could come back to me, when Jesus, in his own words, I told y'all this in my last videos, I was even going to try to, not even, I was even going to see, like, well, I can commit adultery, meaning I could commit a sin and I'll just blame it on my husband. you know, until Jesus said to remain unmarried, meaning I can't be with nobody or reconcile, and anybody who messed with me commit adultery. And I said, ho, 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 ho. So you saying I'm not allowed to do nothing? Ain't this something? That's what marriage is, you guys. You know, I say it so nonchalantly because I did my crying when I found out that was it. But I see people put away all over the place. Whether it don't matter if you low class, middle class, high class, whatever bracket you in, you know these divorces, these multi-million-dollar divorces that be happening. She gets 67 million, he gets the house and the car. Like it doesn't, everybody has a test. And if you going out there committing adultery and you remarrying and you dipping and dabbling with somebody not your husband and your wife, that's adultery. I don't care if you married twice and he died. It's still adultery. You know? Oh, I am. You know me. 3 cars behind. It's these lunatics out here. I mean, I don't want to call them lunatics. Well, forgive me for that. I don't mean to call these people lunatics. But they be driving on the way to nowhere. Driving crazy on the way to nowhere. When I get home, I'm going to relax. Man, if people realize how serious marriage was, people wouldn't be dealing with this whole I'm lonely mess. And they're sitting up here having these conversations and these Q&As about or Q&Rs about what classifies as a good relationship and how can you find love. First of all, society need to realize number one is that adultery is a sin. It should be frowned upon. Somebody get married 50 million times over should be frowned upon. There's nothing cute about that. You sleeping with somebody else's husband should be frowned upon. Ain't nothing cute about that. I don't care if you say he made a mistake, though. She's not the woman for him. Adultery is adultery. If you get a pass on it, then everybody get a pass on it. Well, I was abused with, and that gives you the right to go ahead and sleep with somebody else's husband or marry somebody else. Adultery is adultery. If one person gets a pass, then everybody. That's why God made nobody's allowed to get the pass. And I told you before, all of this, you know, you had a lot of preachers that were misleading and did not know how to read scripture. They didn't know how to read scripture. They didn't know how to translate scripture. Some of them was just so their desires, their sexual desires, they was just doing anything and everything. That's why that when they asked Jesus, is it lawful for a man to put away his wife for any and every cause? For any and every cause? No, it's not. Jesus said, whosoever shall put away his saving for the cause of fornication. You could put your wife away. Now I want you to imagine, I had to ask God, well, what does put away mean? And I remember oh snap, let me get over. I remember I remember God showing me you could put a broom away. Because I was like, you put a broom away, but the broom is already there. Like you put a broom in the closet, you put a broom away, but the broom is still there. So what does that mean, put away? And I asked God, I said, God, what does put away mean? And God said to send away. Oh, so basically it's the same thing when you get a divorce and you give it to your wife or your husband and you send them their way, they go their separate ways. And sometimes it's basically like you went away, you split away from each other, but they're still there. You get what I'm saying? And that's why Jesus says to remain unmarried or reconcile, because you're still living. You could be in Australia and your husband can be in America. You could be in America and your wife could be in Africa. As long as they're still living, they are literally just put away. That you sent them away. But when you come back together, you have reunited back together. So that's what a reconcile comes into play at. So I said, oh, so that's what it means. Hmm. To remain unmarried or reconciled. And then, a lot of people say, whosoever should put away their wife, saving for the, well, Jesus says, whosoever should put away his wife, saving for the cause of fornication. Meaning, you can only put your wife away if you find out she fornicated. Because back then, they used to kill the wife. So Moses' thing was, nah, just put her away. If you found out she wasn't a virgin, you found that. Remember, virgins are people who was knocking the boots, not virgins. Fornication are people who were knocking the boots before they got married. That's why the sin is called fornication. So if you found out that your wife is not a virgin after you marry her, because that's the only time you allowed to have sex is on the marital bed, like your wedding day, and you're like, oh, she's experienced, and you ready to kill her and stone her. No, you could put her away. And Jesus said, and should marry another, you commit adultery, meaning you're one flesh with her now. It's no longer fornication. Now if y'all was still dating and you sent her away and married somebody else, well, if you sent her away and was with somebody else, then that means that you're fornicating and she's fornicating, or she's put away for that, but you would be fornicating. But because you're one flesh now, that's a whole nother category. That's a whole nother category. That's why when Jesus' father, gosh, I can't even, come on, Mona, with your eyeballs. Let me get it together, y'all. That's why Jesus' father was going to put away his mother because Jesus was in her belly. And when he saw that belly, he was like, hold up. We ain't even got married yet. And he knew that if he went to the town hall, it was like, look at here, the wedding is off. Mary has been out here doing some things. Everybody would have got their rocks and some more stuff and would have stoned the mess out of her. But because the angel of the Lord came to Joseph and said, she is pregnant of the Holy Ghost or the Holy Spirit, to marry her because she's a virgin. So he married her and they became one flesh. Jesus was born through a one flesh marriage. And the Bible says Joseph did not know Mary until Jesus was born. Let me get over y'all. Come on, y'all. Come on, y'all. Come on now. Sorry, you guys. So he didn't know. So the Bible, so he didn't even. So some people be like, you got to consecrate the marriage. Yeah. Girl, shut up. Y'all, you have no idea, honey. So Jesus, so Joseph and Mary didn't even have sex until Jesus was born. Jesus was born through a virgin, okay? His father is God, okay? So the Pharisees had the wrong one to be talking that smack to, knowing that his mother could have potentially have been stoned to death because of her pregnancy with Jesus, okay? And another thing too, Joseph, he took one for the team. He was the stepdads of all stepdads, okay? Because he protected this king who was a real king. So, a lot of y'all try to bring up Solomon, the King Solomon, but who's the real king? You know how people be like, who's your daddy? Who's the real king? Jesus. Okay, I rest my case. And who's the father? The Father, the Son, the Holy Ghost. Like, Jesus put down the rules and regulations. And he basically said he didn't come to change it. But it was like that from the beginning. That's the reason why God created the male and female for this cause. So the enemy got y'all thinking you ain't male, you ain't female, but God created us for that very cause. And you got these wicked folks out here trying to redefine pronouns. Boy, bye. And we don't even want to go there of where woman came from. Hold on. Are we about to have a Bible study real quick? Did God not create Adam? And did he not say it's not good for man to be alone? And did he not put Adam to sleep? Okay, and took out his rib and formed a female. And what did Adam name her? Warm man. Bone of my bone, flesh of my flesh. So a man can't possibly take on the name woman because woman, we came from man. Man is the stronger vessel. Just like a baby comes from a mommy, a female. Well, guess what? The woman, our bodies came from the male, a man. I am the wrong one. Somebody asked me, this gay guy asked me, somebody, that's in that lifestyle. He was like, so what do you think about a man calling himself a woman? And he was all talking about this, and all this, and the third. And I'm like, I told him off the brain, I'm not sharing that name with nobody. I'm a woman. Sorry, find another lane. And he was looking at me like, oh. And I'm like, as bougie as some of these flamboyant gay people be, and they be salty as heck about certain things and sharing certain stuff and titles. Oh, I'm not sharing women with you, boo. No, you came out of a vagina. Yes, you did. You came out of someone like me that's built like me. So, anywho, that's a whole nother excuse me for being so blunt, but nowadays you got to, because people acting stupid. People acting real stupid. I ain't sharing that with you now. Because in order for me to believe that you are a woman, I have to deny me, which means I have to deny God that created me. I ain't doing it. I'm not doing it. Okay. They can do it, but I'm not gonna do it. And I don't care who feelings are hurt. My pronouns are her, she, woman. And it was always like that. My grandmother had the same pronouns. Her grandmother did. Thousands of years ago, they had the same pronouns, and we're not going to change it because a bunch of dodos decided they wanted to come along and claim something that don't have nothing to do with them. And I don't care who feelings is in what. Respect me, okay? Respect your sisters. Respect your aunties. Respect your grandmothers. Respect the chicks that carried you for 9 months. The women that carried you for 9 months. Okay. Respect that. You can't step into them heels. You can't, we living in the days that I never thought I would. I'm going left wing now. We living in the times where I never thought I would be able to see. This man was walking around talking about I have a uterus, and Slim had a uterus in a jar. And I'm like, what dodo of a woman gave up her dag on fallopian tubes to put it in a jar for this thing right here to parade around and be like, this is my uterus. I'm done. I know that the Lord is coming back. Y'all better get y'all houses in order. What you believe in, what you thinking, what you claiming, what you saying, because it's not making no sense and it's not adding up. And I can't look. One thing I realized this at 41, you can't comprehend crazy. Because if you try to understand the logic of crazy people, you gonna go crazy. You can't try to understand evil and try to see, well, is there any good in this? No, it needs to be destroyed. There's no understanding that. That's why God talks about he'll give them over to their flesh. Because some of them so far gone, ain't nothing he can do for he don't even do nothing for them. You get what I'm saying? He'll give them over to their flesh. But with everything, all of this sprouted up from adultery, believe it or not. All of these other type of demons and all of this other type sprouted up from adultery. Folks having sex before they was even supposed to have sex. Then that led to other sexual sins, abominations, and some more stuff. This is where we got to go back to the root of stuff. And let's go back to husband and wife in the household, raising their children, their offspring, the way God intended us to be raised, not by the world standards, not by what these teachers trying to teach our children, but what God is saying. It's crazy. People trying to tell you to get rid of your existence so they can exist. And they what? And you gotta go and you supposed to go along with it. Yeah, no. I know that no, I'm not going. I'm not, no, I'm not. I'm not. I'm not. I'm not. I'm not even going to entertain it. That's what happens when people are like, it's nothing wrong with it. And all of a sudden, I can't believe I'm competing against a guy and he's claiming to be a girl and he's beating all of us. I'm like, that's what y'all get. Y'all was supporting that mess. Your mothers was out there with picket fence and signs and stuff talking about what's wrong with letting them in our sports. Until they started beating the crap out of your daughters. So they start trying to come into safe spaces and change up their clothes and stuff, and they got balls and everything down there trying to say they're a woman. Hmm. Know nothing about it. You know nothing about it. You got to take that a look. And I don't care if I got to pick up my cross. If I got to pick up my cross and carry it and go these years without remarriage or dating, you got to pick up yours too. You ain't exempt. I'm just saying. People don't have the shame no more. No, they don't. But I'm gonna tell you some real stuff. People still getting people still getting punished. People still getting punished for doing things they're not supposed to be doing. Don't nobody, ain't nobody, you're not going to sit up here and live a life that's not the life that God intended you to live and think that there's not going to be any um, repercussions behind it. You're just not. I must be driving like a turtle. Even the daggone police officers be speeding past me. They be like, this lady need to move. But hey, I remember one time, y'all, I was driving. This guy was speeding. I'm like, dang. And then I look back and I'm like, oh, there go a cop. And the cop was speeding too. That cop was like, shoot, I'm going home. I ain't got time to be pulling nobody over. I was like, ain't this something? Why is it that when I don't break the law, everybody else around just be breaking laws and it just be like, oh well. But we're definitely living in we're definitely living in the last days. I can honestly say that some of the things at 41 I never thought. I It's raining real bad out here. I, mm, I put the food up. But could you imagine a society that just male and female just stick with the commandments, man? And trust and believe me, nothing new is under the sun. Don't ever think that well, some of the new stuff that's happening today never happened. Oh no, it happened back in the day. It talked about fornication. Some people think that fornication is not a sin. The Bible says, nevertheless, it's better to marry than to burn. To avoid fornication, let every man have his own wife and let every woman have her own husband. To avoid fornication and burn. What about abominations, Mona? Um, the Bible prohibits against same sex. Is you crazy? Just like adultery got put to death, you got put to death for laying down with the same sex. And and it tells you too, you're not supposed to dress or Or you're not supposed to put on a man's dress or put on a woman's dress when you're the opposite sex. Sorry, no. But yeah, nothing new is under the sun. Mm. No, sorry. I'm stuffing my face right now. When I get home, I cannot wait to get in my bed. See my baby. I'm gonna go into her little phone and delete some of them daggone games. Cause I gotta go through some of them games. I got a feeling whatever she looked at, that's why she probably had that daggone nightmare. And this one game I saw in there is a little bit too mystical for me. But yeah, I don't know where's my napkins at. I bad you gotta eat and run. Oh, you gotta eat and drive. Sorry, you guys, I was hungry. But yeah, y'all, she was like, he's not your husband anymore. He's not your husband. Thanks for letting me know. The other lady said, no, he's not your husband. If he gave you a bill of divorce, then he's no longer your husband. Then what is he? No, he shouldn't be. If he shouldn't be any part of the husband title, he shouldn't even be an ex-husband either. He should be nothing. But no, that's not how the cookie crumbles. That's not how the cookie crumbles. Marriage is one time deal as long as you both are living. And everybody knew that. I even knew that. Even in my ignorant bliss, I was like, I remember sending those invitations. Please come and witness these two people become one flesh. Me sending out those invitations. And then when he left, I was like, God, why can't can I get married now? After we went through court, I fought it, I prayed, I fasted. And I said, okay, well, God is gonna be he's gonna allow me to get remarried because my husband put me away. My husband gave me the boot. He gave me the deuces. He said right along. Sorry, y'all, my phone going in and out too. But you get my drift. And I was like, Lord, so when my husband when he first told, first of all, God was the reason why. God had showed me that I was going to get a notice of a divorce. And the way God showed me, and y'all, I may go in and out or whatever like that because I'm just in the bad area. Years ago, when I was with my husband at the time, we used to play this game. It was some game he would play called Never Wending Nights. And I would have create a character. We would kind of go into this virtual. It's not even virtual. It's like a video game world or whatever. And we had our own avatars, and we would go on adventures and stuff like that. He was very good um at that. Me, I was the type that got mauled by a tiger or something like that. But whatever. So in the game you would be typing and kind of role playing, but you can actually move around. You can get in ships and go different places or whatever. And one of the inside of this game there was a tavern or something like that. And I remember me and him in this game, and I had entered the game on in real life later. And I remember I ended up being on some ship, and he met some random guy, and basically he role played like somebody slipped him a note, and this is in real life. He role played like somebody slipped him a note and was like, your wife is on a ship, and he was telling the guy, we gotta go because my wife is on the ship. And the guy said, what do you mean? He was like, my wife is on the ship. So they did an adventure and all of this other type stuff to get to me, and I didn't know how to play the game like that, so I was just told to kind of like wait where I was at, because I could have got killed or murdered in the game or whatever, because I just wasn't that skilled. So anyway, the guy thought that my husband at the time, he thought that he was basically like really role playing the game until they actually got to the ship, and the guy met me, and he had like a warlock. I don't even know, not a warlock, but he had some. I don't know what type of character he had, but he was like, "Hello, my lady," like, like we were like venturing out, and then we ended up coming across some bad guys, and we were all in there fighting. Me, I didn't know what to do. I was just running, trying not to get hit because I didn't want to die in the daggone game. But anyway, that was the game. So in real life, I had a dream. And in the dream, that same tavern, I was sitting at the bar, and someone sent me a note. And in the note, it said a divorce. My husband wanted a divorce. And in the game, in the dream, I got so upset that I took the note and I tore it up. I took that note and I tore it up, but I woke up and I was like, whoa. And I'm like, Lord. And God was warning me that they're going to send you, they're going to be filing for a divorce. And basically just to tear it up. It's a piece of paper. So my father-in-law at the time, because his background is as an attorney, he purposely made sure that my husband was not in the house that we were in, because that house belonged to my in-laws. Me and my husband at the time was renting the house from them. And he made sure that for, I think, 5 months, it was like a couple of months, they wanted to keep me in the state and keep me in the house. That's why they were trying to attack me on both sides, so the months can come up. And that's when the last blow is when they use the same attorneys to what it, we were fighting like crazy. Those same attorneys that do the eviction was the same attorneys that they use to cause to do a divorce. I was not supposed. My cousin at the time was like, she had a dream of the attorney where the attorneys didn't want you to know something. It was something that they didn't want you to know. And it was later on revealed to me that the same attorney. So that's why for the longest time I really had a big issue with my father-in-law, because my father-in-law strategically did that. He knew that my husband was not capable, or did he have any money to do what my father-in-law did. Hold on, yeah, I'm gonna have to wait until I get through this passage. It's just I'm going in and out. I'm going in and out, and I'm trying to explain to y'all about these attorneys. Hold on, I'm about to be like in the clear. So in different states, in order for you to have a bill of divorce, I'm basically telling y'all about the dream. So God was warning me that I'm about to be served a notice of a divorce. So I was basically winning in court, like in terms of the custody And in terms, because I was literally just trying to get, you know, I knew I was going to eventually lose our marital home because the house literally belonged to my in-laws. They paid for that house in cash, and they wanted me and their son to rent that house. But it was literally just to keep a close eye on him. It was literally just to control. That's why lesson learned. I won't ever get anything that's in somebody else's name. Everything has to be in my name. Period. So so remember, God gave me the warning with the dream that I had. But my cousin also had a dream that there was something about the attorneys that my in-laws and my husband did not want me to know. So when we were showing up, because there's different courts, there's juvenile domestic, then there's the other circuit court, like there's different courts or whatever like that. So now we're showing up for a different court case, and my husband comes walking through the door with his father, and now it's a female attorney, and they come walking in, and then my husband stands on, he tries to stand beside me, and his father stands on the other side with the attorney. Now remember, my husband at the time he walked through the door, and he was walking through the door with his father. But then all of a sudden, he hadn't spoke to me at all, and he stood on the side with me. And when we went before the judge, I told the judge that I really still we need to how. First of all, the rent was paid on time. Everything was paid on time. Even when my father-in-law and mother-in-law was like, "Y'all don't have to pay," I was like, "Nope, everything paid." Because the last thing I wanted anyone to say was she owed rent, and everything was paid on time. So what ended up happening was when he walked through the courtroom, he stood next to me. And when the judge was like, "What do you plead? Not it's not guilty, but do you want to stay?" My husband was like, "No, we don't want to stay." And I was like, "Your Honor, I haven't seen my husband in all of this time. He walked in the door with them." And his attorney said this. The attorney kind of tried to interrupt it and was like, "Oh, okay, we can understand." In a nutshell, I knew that there was something that that attorney was hiding because she tried to interrupt it in a way and play it off. I looked through the documents and come to find out my father-in-law used the same attorneys to represent him as a landlord. And what he did was when he took me to court, he told the judge as a landlord that I yes, we got this house that was perched on a hill, and they did this and did that, and he was giving all the information out. But my father-in-law is as smart as he is, because when it comes to attorney type stuff, he don't know. I used to listen to a lot of the stories. I remember my mother-in-law telling me at the time he had a big case, and the guy owed a lot of money, and the guy wasn't trying to make a payment. And during the case, he asked the guy, "What's your bank account number?" And the guy gave him the bank account number. And do you know that after that case, they went, them lawyers went right up in there and took the man's money. And I remember my mother-in-law and my father-in-law laughing like crazy about it, like ha 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 ha. So I knew that my father-in-law at the time was very strategic when it comes, and very controlling when it comes to attorneys. So when I found out that the same attorney that represented you as my landlord is now the same attorney that was representing in the juvenile domestic case, what I did was I sued my landlords, which happened to be my mother and my father-in-law. I didn't win, and the reason why is because they threw it out of case, but it almost went, and my father-in-law was shaking in his boots. You want to know why? Because as a landlord, you gave out valuable information to a judge, and you're my landlord. So when I was in the child, we were dealing with the child domestic whatever jurisdiction or whatever, my father-in-law, when he was yapping the way he was, You wasn't supposed to be given that information when we got a lease agreement. See, now I'm your tenant. Now you're taking me to court for a tenant. So what I did was I went to the high court and I sued my landlord for giving out information because at the end of the day, I am a tenant. And then I told the judge, and I also contacted the attorneys, and I tried to get them barred or banned or report them because of what they were doing, like trying to get me on both ends, same attorney group, the same attorney, and they was coming at me like with a whole bunch of like force. Like I've never, even the other guy, the guardian lighting was like, what are these guys trying to do? You know, but I remember telling the judge, because now I was in court and my father-in-law was in court. And I told the judge, I said, Your Honor, you have to understand this. Out of any attorney this could have been, this was my father-in-law that used his attorney power to come against me the way he did. My father-in-law looked so daggone nervous. He manipulated the court system, and not even just that, he used an entire team and he gave viable information as a right, just the same way you go to a judge and you ask for certain stuff, because as a landlord you have a right. Where I have the right as a tenant to sue my landlord for giving valuable information during a case that has something to do with my husband. And what they didn't want me to know is they didn't want me to know that that attorney that my cousin had a dream about. They didn't want me to know that she was because when my cousin was like, they didn't want me to do something. So I started looking through the documents. All three attorneys that were on there, they all was representing courts. It's hard for you to understand it, but anyway, God will give you, he'll send a sign, he'll give you the answers. So in the dream, God already showed me that I was going to get served notice. So after all going through, my husband was missing court dates and everything. Y'all remember the stuff. We were supposed to go to court, and then all of a sudden somebody came in the courtroom and said, "Are you Ramona Hines?" And I was like, "No, I'm not." Because I knew this was the delivery they were trying to do. Because the first time he got me served, he basically hired a crew to this is my father-in-law. He hired a crew to dig all the snow out, and he sent a man to serve me papers to go to court. that's how that's how messed up it was. But I forgave it. I forgave it. I can tell the tales and not even catch feelings. So when we were already in court, somebody was like, "Is your name Ramona Hines?" And I was like, "No, it's not." And he stood up, and my husband's other attorney stood up and said, "Yes, she is. Yes, she is." My father-in-law hated me so much. One thing he wanted was to make sure that he got a divorce. I want to tell y'all something. My husband had no sense to his name. He had We had a joint bank account that was my account that they told him to shut down. He didn't have money. He didn't have $30,000 or $40,000 to fund our divorce. And when he first left, and when he was supposed to come back, but his parents talked him into not to, I don't know, I don't even care. My father-in-law told me that I told him I'm not going to be paying for nothing, and he funded everything. That I'm talking about, he paid $40,000, but then at the end of the day, you got your money's worth, because the house, we got the house, I think the house was like maybe 500,000, and I think you sold it for like, he made $100,000 profit off of the marital home that me and my husband was in. So I'm sure you got your money, you good to go with that. But anyway, they went through great lengths. That's how you know that the enemy hates marriage, because he went through hoops, y'all, to make sure that it said divorce, just so he can control his son. I'm like, fine, whatever. I mean, at the end of the day, my husband wouldn't he didn't even fight for us, so whatever. But they also knew too that my husband was not in his great mind state at the time, but it didn't matter. It is what it is. It was like as if it was some type of sport. It was some type of sport. Like, look at what, you know what I mean? But I've said this from the get-go. A man that can do his wife dirty and his children dirty, no man, even the man that uses you to do something dirty, no man would ever trust a man like that. Because anytime you can do your wife and your children dirty, then you can do anything, period. That's it. No man is going to trust you if you did your wife that way. But anywho, so getting back to how God showed me that I was going to be delivered, that I was going to get that how I was going to get that notice that of adultery. Tried to serve me while I was in court. How disgusting my father-in-law was. And I'm trying to say I had so much hatred in front of you. You know, court law is that you can't serve somebody while they're in court. So what happened was when the man tried to serve me, I said, I'm not her. What happened was he tried to bring out paper, and I was like, look, no. The bailiff saw that, and they went over there and they jacked that dude up and dragged him downstairs and took him before a judge, because you're not ever supposed to deliver or serve somebody in court. You're not supposed to. We did a whole bunch of serving when I went through my I got served. Matt got, well, the man I married, he got served, and then my father-in-law, when I went to sue them, they got served. I sent an older white guy to serve him. I'm sure they knocked at the door. Hey, are you Mr. and Mr. Such and such? And they were probably like, hey, how's it going? Oh yeah, you've been served. And it showed right then and there by your daughter-in-law. And it's always going to be on the record. It's always going to be on the record that you did your daughter-in-law that way. It's even if the judge, y'all don't understand. I was so happy when I served my father-in-law. I was ready to subpoena the police officers, and I wanted a jury. I wanted a freaking jury so they can understand what people would do to abuse their positions on the bar, and how they would use their lawyer power against those less than them, because my father-in-law had it all mapped out, but little did he know the God that I serve. So anywho, so I got served that day. That served, even though they went ahead and took him before a judge, that guy still put it through the clerk office stating that I did get served. And that's when now the female attorney that was representing to evict, and I was even telling the judge, I said, Your Honor, see, remember, I wasn't supposed to know none of this because they was thinking I was just some ignorant black woman. I was like, Your Honor, he got his attorneys. These are the attorneys that put us out of the house. Now, y'all know my background. I'm a property manager. I deal with the courts. Do you think for one moment that Ramona Hines or Ramona Comas, whatever you want to call me, do you think for one moment any of my things were going to be out on the street? Any of them? No, sir, Bob. Absolutely not. So the whole time I was asking for alimony. I was like, and then I wanted the divorce on the basis of abandonment. But his attorneys for all of that and was like, no, we can't say abandonment. And I'm like, but why? He wanted divorce, put abandonment on it. No, because that changes the face of things. What do you mean it changes the face? That's the truth. He abandoned me. And I'm gonna tell you how I ended up getting emergency child support, which I never changed. Is because when he left, we were going through hardship. I had to apply for food stamps. So when I said, Your Honor, we're on food stamps, she was like, child support granted. So it was like I went through a whole lot, but again, my husband didn't have $30,000 or $40,000 to pay for an entire team. This was the obsession of his father. And to make matters where, I mean, at the end of the day, what happened is what happened. But I don't think my in-laws understand the gratification. I don't think they understand what you've done, because when they're already old, I'm sure they're walking with canes and probably can't even get up them steps. Okay. Because the last time I look, a lot of people that was born in on the 40s and the 50s, they passing out now. They leaving out of this world now. So when you're long and gone, and who knows, maybe the man that I married, maybe my husband, my covenant husband, maybe he went out and got married again. I don't know. But sometimes you don't think it all the way through of just what a family is really designed for. You don't think it all the way through until you get of age and you realize your children aren't around, or you get of age and you thank God for your children because they look after you. You don't even understand the design, and I'm like, you know what? But some people don't want the blessing. It's perfectly fine. But gosh, I felt like it's 8:08 something. I'm just getting home. But are y'all with me? But yeah, like I was saying, so um, what I was saying. So God showed me that I was going to get served a divorce decree. And he showed me that I was going to be served from he didn't show me who I was going to be served by, but he showed me that they're going to serve you with a divorce. The thing is too, around that time, I was in fear of everything. I was in fear of losing our home. I was in fear of losing and I was in fear of losing my husband. And I tell you, my father-in-law had it in for me so much that he wouldn't let up. He wouldn't let up. It was times where my husband didn't even show up for court. And I knew where he was at because I got the email notification telling me where he was at. And they would call his attorneys was calling me like, "Have you seen him?" I'm like, "Are you serious? Y'all taking me to court and you want me to tell you where he at?" It was so messy. It was just really, I swear it was like a movie, y'all. I was to get a divorce, that I was going to get a notice, and I did get served, and that's how I got served the divorce. I was nervous, like my heart was pounding. I felt like, oh my gosh. I was praying, I was fasting, I was hoping that he would find it in his heart not to do it, because I really truly loved him very much, and I didn't want a divorce, and our marriage was not on the rocks for a daggone divorce. Matter of fact, when we were in court, and you know how you have those people to kind of go through your paperwork and stuff. When me and my husband was talking at the time, and I was like, "I hope you're not smoking those cigarettes. You need to not." I was telling him, "You need to put them cigarettes down." And we were just going back and forth, and the guy said, "It doesn't sound like y'all need a divorce. It sounds like y'all maybe need counseling or something, but not even a divorce." It was it was just the most it was just the most messiest, craziest, scariest time. And I'm just so glad I'm through it. And I don't ever want to experience that ever again. I don't ever want to experience that ever again. And it was very scary. It was extremely scary. So I don't ever want to experience that. That was like a very dark part of my life. That was a very um it was scary. It was like really, really scary. Like I I just felt like I was walking the plank. I felt like, oh my gosh. You know how you just want to breathe like, oh my gosh, is a divorce? And the thing is, the judge didn't even say the judge didn't even say divorce granted. He just said it so nonchalant, like you wanted alimony, but all of his instruments are gone and he's not able to give you alimony because the instruments are gone, because that's what he was getting paid his money from, is teaching music. So that's another thing too. The attorneys were like, he wants his instruments back. So they were cross examining me about the instruments. But when it was my turn to cross examine, because I was like, you know, I remember my father and my mother saying, you did really good. I was cross examining and I was freestyling all of it. I was going off of how his attorneys was doing it, and then I just did it myself. And I said, so you want these instruments back. So who bought the instruments? I know his attorneys was like, when the heck was you gonna tell us she bought $8,000 worth of $9,000 worth of music equipment? So then of course he tried to lie and say that I'm abusive or whatever like that. And then I remember I was like, okay, I got one for that. And I was like, how tall are you, sir? How tall are you, sir? And don't you have a brown belt or black belt in Taekwondo or something like that? and I could remember the attorney saying, what is it that they say when they try to disrupt somebody else? And they was like, objections, Your Honor. And the judge is like, nah, she's getting somewhere with this. I get her point. And then at one point in time when he was talking, I kind of spaced out and went somewhere else. I didn't, it was, y'all, when I tell you, it was so stupid. It was so stupid. That divorce, it was so stupid. It was so stupid. But I was like, how tall are you again? Oh, and you have a black belt and a brown belt in Taekwondo? Oh, okay. Oh. And I remember that. And then when we got down to the music or whatever, because his attorneys were questioning me about the instruments and all this other type stuff. And then I said, so let me ask you something, sir. You were a producer, weren't you? And he was like, yes, I was a producer. And I was like, and you worked with an artist. What was that artist's name? I know the daggone attorneys was like, when the heck was you gonna tell us that she was the daggone artist? But God, I'm so grateful. I am so grateful. That is, oh, I don't ever want to experience that ever again. That was a very dark cloud in my life, but God showed me in the dream. I tore up that divorce decree. And sure enough, he prepared me for it. Because I think if he wouldn't have prepared me for it, it probably would have broke me down. Like I really thought I was going to lose it. I really thought love can be so powerful that some people can't take heartbreaks. I really thought, because I really truly loved my husband very, very much. And I honored him very, very much, that I was begging him not to divorce. I was trying to email him. I was doing everything. I remember sending this dude some flowers. Never send anybody flowers when they did you wrong. I remember sending him flowers. I remember trying to show up with our daughter. It's like he hated and despised me. That's why I don't even be looking for. I tried to not to about maybe 6 7 months ago. I tried to send him a picture of our daughter, but he blocked that. So I'm like, I'm done with trying. It's not even a point anymore, and it's disappointing when you then marry somebody who basically turned into a freaking monster on you. But that's the way things go. And at the end of the day, I forgive it. I have a good life. I have peace. I don't bother nobody. And it's just that I know for a fact I could have been, if I had a loving husband who loved me just as much as I loved him, I think we would have been a very powerful unit. But you sometimes you only get you get what you got out of the deck. You know what I mean? Not everybody you marry is is on the same page as you. That's why you think somebody's husband went to hell. You do that. You do know that, right? Somebody's brother or sister went to hell. Just because you kinfolk or you marry somebody don't mean they in the same equation as you. I had for the longest time with my father-in-law, I had this huge grudge against him because I felt like you took advantage of my husband when you knew he wasn't mentally there. He was not there, and you took advantage of that, and you funded an entire breakage on our marriage without allowing God to intervene in it. You did that, and you did it harshly and purposely. Um, and I felt like, especially because he was supposed to be this Bible study teacher, and I learned the hard way that people who study the Bible or teach Bible study, because he taught Bible study on um on Sundays. I even went to his pastor and told his pastor to tell him to stay out of my marriage. And the pastor was like, I don't know you, but I know them. And they're people of good character. And I'm like, what the hell are you talking about? So I found out very quickly that a lot of folks in robes are evil as hell. And some of them that shouldn't even be in robes. I remember one time the pastor, he didn't even show up for church, but his son showed up for church preaching, and it was a horrible message. And I'm like, how the hell do y'all even allow people that's not even so called ordained to be up there preaching? And he was screaming at the congregation because they not accepting this 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 abomination mess out here. But that's your church. So when I was trying to look for pastors who were going to intervene and who were going to speak, they were like, ain't nothing we can do about it. Oh well. They didn't even say, okay, let me call it. Are you intervening? This is my thing. If I'm a Christian woman, and if somebody say, no, I'm going to help in this divorce, I'll be quick to say, get the hell off of their marriage. If you already know how weddings go, you speak now or forever hold your peace. What God has joined together, let no man put asunder. I'm trying to tell you something. If you think that anybody who was not involved in the separation of my marriage didn't get it, I'm trying to tell you they got it. Because what I was shown later on, I was shown the female attorney. I was shown I saw her crying. She was crying really, really, really bad in a dream. And when I walked over, I saw the paper and she was signing the paper. And I felt like, I don't know if it was my father in law that was behind her, but I saw the paper and she was signing and she was crying. And I told her in the dream, you shouldn't have did it. You shouldn't have did it. When the judge said that the day that we got our divorce, I said to the attorney, so what happens now? And she was like, nothing, because they asked the judge if I can pay $30,000. And I was like, I looked at my husband and I was like, they actually wanted me to pay $30,000 because he paid for attorneys to divorce me and put his family out. And I had to cross examine my father in law and everything. And bottom line, I was cross examining, asking, so you pay for these attorneys. So the truth had came out that my father in law paid for the attorneys. So when they asked for me to pay the 30,000, the judge said, "Oh no, your client's father is going to pay for that." Meaning, no, he's going to pay for his own fees. Because one judge tried to say, yeah, because when it was thrown out of court, one judge tried to say, yeah, I'm gonna have to pay for it, but this judge was like, no, she ain't paying for nothing. And my mother said when we walked out of that courtroom, I remember looking at the female attorney. Now, because remember, she was the one to help represent us getting put out of our marital home. He was already there. They just wanted to get rid of me. And now she's the same attorney that's doing a divorce. And they hated the fact that I kept bringing up, it's his attorneys. I mean, you're the one who did the eviction. Now, remember, the house was full. The house was completely full to the rim. When the eviction day came, that house, you can hear it echo. I even cleaned and mopped the floors. It was completely empty because we all know that in an eviction, your things are put out on the street. I wasn't going to be embarrassed. And plus, my husband didn't. And so when they said, where's all of this and where's all that? I said, I kept telling my husband to come home and he didn't. And we were facing eviction by my landlords. So it all went back on them. So he who digs a ditch, you fell into it. You fell into it. And so, and I used to, when I remember that house, I used to like that house. And I remember crying and praying, and God showed me. He showed me in a dream of a couch being put. It was my old, not my old couch, but it was a couch I used to have before when I was in my old house. This was a suctional couch. He showed me my family cheering me on, and I'm being in the couch being put in the new house. And God was showing me, Mona, I'm gonna get you a new house. Y'all, when I tell you, He got me a house that's so way better, way better than the marital house we stayed in that my in-laws got. Like everything. Like when I look back at the house that me and my husband stayed in, I used to think that thing was like that. My house is oh, my house is 50 million times better than that house. And I was still in shock, like, God, you did that. And God was like, what? Who's your father? I'm like, you are. So, anywho, so I remember at that time when the divorce was happening, and the judge was like, um, you cannot get alimony, and child support gonna stay the same. And then when I remember asking the attorney that represents us, so what happens now after all of the stuff I went through with them? She kind of looked sad. I think she was just like, nothing. You've been granted it. You don't have to pay anything. And I looked at her, and you know what I said to her? I said, I hope you don't have to go through a divorce. In other words, you better be very, very careful for what you touch, because you one day may get it 20 times worse than what you did. And I learned a valuable lesson. Everybody who say that they Christians, whether they be Bible study teachers or so-called scholars and believers, and they're not Christians and they're not believers at all. I learned that at the end of the day, justice will come. And I learned too that God had prepared me so I wouldn't take the blow as harshly as I did when I got when I was when they delivered the notice that he's divorcing me. I must say this though, and just to be very honest, out of every relationship I've ever been in, this was by far the worst blow ever, is when your husband give you the boot. But I was married for 3 years with my husband, and I've been divorced longer, so I was in a different space, different time, different woman. But going through those things and seeing the lengths of what people would do to try to destroy a relationship, I know if it happened to me, it's happening to others. I remember my grandmother saying, "You're not the first woman that went and got a divorce. You ain't gonna be the last either." Some people are so evil. Some people will go through great lengths to make sure that you're not married. Maybe it's because my father-in-law, my mother-in-law was really embarrassed that I was a black woman, or maybe because they really wanted to control their son. Maybe because they thought that they were doing it just to show him love, and and maybe they don't care, and maybe they do care. But what one thing for sure that I did see, that attorney was crying. I did see I did see in one of my dreams where my husband had came back, and when he came back, I saw my father, and like he was hugging our daughter, holding her, and she was crying like she really missed her dad. Like she was crying and crying. She was just a baby. And um my father-in-law tried to come towards us, and I put my hand up and I told him, just stay away. Just stay back. Don't come near. Do not come near. But at the end of the day, my husband at the time, he was grown enough to tell his father to stop, and he didn't. So, that's why the Bible says that you leave your father and your mother, and you do what? You leave your father and your mother, and you cleave. And when people go back to mommy and daddy, and whenever all these other people to be in your relationship, it can it's going to be that what, because I'm inside of the car, that's why it's so dark. um it's always going to be that shoulda, coulda, woulda of what could have happened. For some people, I don't know, some people like to be controlled. I don't care. But yeah, so that was that. I almost forgot some of that stuff. Y'all don't even understand. I am so grateful to God that that time is gone. I felt like that was one of the darkest times in my life, going through that divorce. It got to the point I was just like, I want this all to be over. I want this to be over. Like I don't even want, like, whatever. Let him go. It got to that point where I was just like, I'm done. Anyway, that's pretty much all I gotta say about that. What is that? Oh, the daggone car is locked. How the heck is the car locked while I'm on the inside? Doesn't make sense these days. Yeah, but that's it for that, y'all. So yeah, but he showed me I was about to get that divorce paper. I was like, oh, not. I was like, oh, not me. Oh, hold on, y'all. Hold on. Um, it was unnecessary. It was so unnecessary. But then again, it was necessary because at the end of the day, I can honestly say, like, I can honestly say, like, I'm trying to put it. You know what? I need to stop being so cheap and just get me a dag on a stand. I can honestly say that I ain't mad no more. Like I can't cry over what I didn't have because I gained so much since I haven't been, with the person I married. I can't get upset. It was just like how it all went down. That was just real dirty. Like I know me, like I fear God too much. So I'm not gonna touch nobody's marriage. When I was younger, I ain't mess with no married men. When I was in my 20s, I'm like, and if I find out you was married, I'm cutting it off. I'm not no homebreaker. Um, I remember at one point in time when my dad was married, I remember saying to him, um, like at one point in time, I was just like, I'm not touching that because he was trying to divorce his ex-wife at the time. And I was just like, well, maybe dad, like thinking like something's just not, adding up. And then when all of these bad things started to happen to my father, and then it started to happen to her, like a domino effect, I was trying to figure it out. And then it was like, I know what it is. I was shown it's because you in an adultery. You're living in an adultery relationship. And that's why it's so much stuff that was happening. I'm talking about my father's toe would get amputated, and her toe would get amputated, and it was just like they were both in and out of the hospital. And so I just was like, how you just like, something's not right. Something, it's almost like somebody's been cursed. What is it? There's something that gotta be underlined. Um, so yeah, but yeah, we went through some stuff, y'all. But I remember in that dream, that attorney, she was crying. She was boo-hoo crying. The same attorney. And I said, and I didn't say anything to her. I just walked up, and while she was doing the paper and crying, I just was I knew something had happened to her, or something because of her actions in my marriage. Something bad was happening to her. And I knew that this was the aftermath of it. And I said to her in the dream, you shouldn't have did it. Like you shouldn't have performed. Let me tell you something. I have had as a property manager, okay. I have had as a property manager. I remember years ago when there was an eviction that was about to be performed, and I had the sheriffs there, and one of the residents, she was like, "Oh God, Mona, please, please, Mona, please, I'm gonna have the money to you in 2 days. Please, just oh gosh, please, Mona." Like she just kept doing that. And I realized it wasn't right. And so the sheriff looked at me and was like, so what you gonna do? And I was like, call it off. And I told her, all right, I'm gonna see you in the next 2 days. And she sure enough, she had the money. She had the money, and I was able to collect, and everything was fine. But I say this is that just because you have a title does not mean that you should perform everything. You get what I'm saying? Like some stuff, if I know this ain't right with it, I don't want nothing to do with it. Like it's just like when those people had, was it Barnabas, when those people brought Jesus before this man and was like, we want to kill him, and he was like, I wash my hands from this. Certain stuff you just don't touch, because you don't know, you don't know what's going to go along with you touching it, even if you're getting paid to do it. Some people are like, well, that's because I remember, oh gosh, I remember saying this to the attorney. This is the older guy. I said, please don't do I said, please don't do my divorce. Please don't perform my divorce. Just don't do it. And he was like, oh no, I got it for the client. I said, I'm trying to tell you, do not touch my divorce. Just please don't do it. I'm telling you and I'm asking you, don't do it. And I remember at one point in time, I was putting in petitions to remove his attorneys because of the state of my husband's health at the time. And they wouldn't do it, they wouldn't do it. And one day I got a letter where they said they would no longer be representing him. That's because they couldn't find him, and they was like, we don't want to deal with it. And I was so grateful. But evidently my father-in-law was so determined, and then next thing you know, the attorneys were representing again. I remember when they sent me that letter saying after all of the mess we went through, they no longer wanted to represent him anymore. And um they ended up coming back again, and this time they came back, my father came back with full of vengeance, and that's when he pushed through for the divorce. But I'm telling you something, I wouldn't have did it. I wouldn't have did it. Now, do I feel that what's the word I want to say? Do I feel I wouldn't have touched it? I wouldn't have touched that. I wouldn't have touched that. And I'm not saying that because I was the person who was married to him, but it was the significance of a marriage. Like I would have never touched somebody's marriage the way they went ham and like that. I would have washed my hands from it. Like, somebody else gonna have to do this. It has too much of God on it. It had too much of God on it. It really did. I wouldn't have touched that with a 10-foot pole. And although, and I feel like everyone who was involved, everybody that was involved got it. And whether they think something bad happened, they're always going to remember through it all certain stuff you just don't touch. You just don't touch. It's like, as a Christian, as a believer in Christ, you know, there are certain things. There has to be a certain line between. I'm not doing that. I'm sorry. You're gonna have to go for somebody. I'm not gonna be able to perform that. I'm not gonna be able to be a part of it. I can refer you to somebody else, and I wish you the best, but I wash my hands from it. Um, I wouldn't have did that. I wouldn't have did it. And I know you're thinking, well, why I'm so on this? Because personally, me, I would never touch a marriage. I would never touch. Um, I would never try to wedge. There were so many. I feel like there were so many ways in our marriage that could have been handled or mended, but because there were so many parts in it, I wouldn't have did it. But it happened. I wouldn't have did it. I know, me personally, if I was an attorney and I'm trying to go in and I'm trying to get rid of this man's wife, and we all secretly huddle together, like, okay, you get her for trying to get the custody, you get her for trying to move her out, and then I'm gonna get her for the divorce. And then the whole time you finding that this is a praying woman, and she throwing scripture and this and the third, I would have been like, retreat. I can't be a part of this. it I couldn't. I'm just telling you, me personally, I couldn't have been. I remember one time where I had an eviction,
and the lady was going around the corner to go pick up her kid, but she hadn't paid rent, and the eviction still went down, and all the stuff was out. Like, they got her stuff out, and the sheriffs were ready to go. But then what ended up happening, she came around the corner, and she had a piece of paper that showed that it was supposed to be stopped. Her stuff was already out in the street. She came just in the nick of time. And when she showed up, um, the sheriff was like, "We gotta give her the keys." And we did. And I was like, wow. Even if I wanted to take back possession, if God said not today, it's not happening. So, what I have learned in my 41 years of life is that anything that is of God and anything that is ordained by God, anything that God said don't touch, you just don't touch it. I ain't touching it with a 10-foot pole. any Anyone that's crying out to God, that's seeking God, you have no right whatsoever to try to take that away or come in between that person and God. And when God is working on somebody, you have no right to intervene and try to um override what God has going for that person. Because my in-laws even said this years ago, because I remember when we were looking for a house and we couldn't find the right house, and he said sometimes when there's hiccups, or sometimes when things happen, it's best to just to walk away, because you know that God's hand is not with it. And I I fought so much to try to keep us as a unit. A house that is divided is not going to stand. But it was even worse when you had a whole team of a slew of people that it was just, coming up against you. You had to really ask, what was the motives of it? What was the biggest motive of it? I mean, I had just had a baby at the time. I was barely even employed. Like, what was the biggest drive of it all? It was like the enemy waited until I was at my most vulnerable moment. He knew, you suffered all these losses. Now I'm going to make you, now that you delivered a baby full term, now I'm going to make you suffer the most one, because I know you love your husband very good. And through it all, like, God just, man, I love God. Let me tell you something. I was so hurt that God saw, he he lifted me up through the entire progress. That's why I ain't ever forgetting that. It ain't nothing, it's nothing like your husband saying, "I hate you and I don't love you," and it's nothing like that. But God just is like, "Mona, I got you." And he literally like walked me through the entire thing. I could have lost my daggone mind. But instead I was out there, Jay, like, laughing and making jokes out of. He gave me courage. And at the same time, he showed me, like, he put it like this. God heard my cry and saw my fasting and saw my um obedience to him, that he he stopped whatever he was doing, and he made a way for me and mine. And I can't, out of all of it, I will honestly say, if it wasn't for that, my relationship with God just became on a whole nother level. Like, the love that I have for my father is just on a whole nother level, because when my own husband said, "I don't love you no more, and I want to divorce you and try to rip you in three different directions," God was like, "Oh no, this one right here, this is mine." And he protected me, and I just love him for that. That's why I'm just so faithful to him, because he was faithful to me. He was so faithful to me when I was going through my worst time, and he knew He knew everything. He knew what I should have done. Let me tell you, I'm not going to say I had another dream, but I don't want to say it on camera. But this dream was given to me by God, that I had should have did something, but I didn't. And I was telling my mother in the dream. Next thing you know, something happened where things kind of kicked off. Then we ended up in the Alexandra court. I'm not going to say it on camera, but if it wasn't for God saying that, that one thing that God said to me in the dream, and then when I'm speaking to my sister in real life, she said, I had a dream. They were trying to take your daughter and they were trying to do it. When my sister had that dream and then I had this dream, I was like, oh no. So I did exactly what the dream told me I should have did. When I did that one thing in that dream that God gave me, it stopped everything. It stopped everything. And I don't want to share what that was, but I will honestly say, like, if the man I married is looking at this video, you have to understand the reason why I did what I did the way I did that is because in the dream I was told to do that. And when that happened, everything shut down. I was no longer in the grips of my in-laws anymore. Everything, when I tell you everything stopped, everything stopped. And then my cousin, she had a dream too that was confirmation. Um, but it stopped. Everything that the enemy was trying to do, like the ditch that the enemy was trying to make me fall in, and how he tried to do certain things to tarnish my, they were falling right into it. And it's not to say how, because I didn't want my husband, I didn't want him to be hurt. And I remember at one point in time when my in-laws was coming to pick Symphony up, and I was like, well, isn't it? Because at one point in time I was never giving my daughter over to them because I didn't want them to think like I approved of it. But I remember coming out and I was talking big smack, and we were going back and forth, and I totally forgot when my mother-in-law was like, you're suing us. I was like, oh yeah, that's right. I was like, but remember, y'all dragged me in court first. I got dragged in court first. I knew nothing about court or the court systems or how certain functions work. This is how you know that God was with me. I knew nothing. I knew nothing about the systems until God started sending me places and people were telling me, oh, all it is you doing this, that, and the third. And then I started to do my own thing and mimic the attorneys, but I knew nothing about it. But I know one thing, I learned a lot about it. And now I'm not intimidated when I get in front of folks. I mean, if you can go before 33, because like the lady said, Ramona Hines was just very difficult. We went before 33 judges. I'm like, dang, we did go before 33 judges. I don't ever want to go before another one. I don't. That was the word. I do not ever want to deal with nobody's. And then they try to put a gag order on a girl. I said, excuse me, now you're trying to tell me that I can't say certain things on my channel. What is this? What in the world did my baby just order? Oh Lord, she didn't order this daggone little boy Ryan son. No, no, we taking that off. But I never want to go through that ever again. I'll tell everybody, don't touch people marriages, because I cannot pinpoint it. That I'm not sitting up here waiting and sipping tea for somebody to go through hardship because they put me through hardship. I have forgiven it all. I have forgiven it, but I'm gonna tell you some real stuff. And everything in life is always a reaction to what you touched. So I may say, okay, I forgive it, but vengeance is mine, says the Lord. So I don't know what could have happened or what did happen, or but I wouldn't have touched that. I wouldn't have touched that at all. Anybody that come and be, and I'm sitting up here and I'm looking, certain stuff you just can't touch, because whether you like it or not, if God didn't say it's gonna go down, it's not gonna go down. And what you meant for evil, God will take it and do and use it for good. But I wouldn't have touched that. I would be afraid to touch somebody's marriage. This stuff that I know on the levels that I know, I would be afraid of it. Like, no, I'm not touching it. There's certain stuff I'll be like, I ain't touching that. I think I told you my last position, one of the co-workers, he worked the front desk. Um, I was told, at first I used to complain about them a lot, but I'm like, people just coming up with stuff to complain about. I was told that that particular person that was at the front desk was a minister and a preacher. And so I remember, and it would seem like you can tell the fruit, you can tell the spirit. You can really tell. He seemed like a very nice guy, very older guy. When I would see him, sometimes I could see like little literature and stuff like that he'd be reading, or I'll walk past the computer and he may be listening to like gospel songs or something like that. But I remember asking, I said, let me ask you this question. I said, you a pastor? And he kind of looked and was like, and I was like, oh no, that's fine. You ain't got no beef with me. Touch not my, so what is it? Touch not my anointing and do my prophets no harm. Bottom line, I would tell folks, don't mess with don't even mess with them. They're good, And he was a very good worker, but it was certain stuff where don't start no stuff, won't be no stuff type of stuff. And so there are certain things in life I realize there's certain stuff that are forbidden for you to mess with or try to catch beef with. And one of those things are something like that that's not meant to be touched. Because although I'm fine, my daughter is fine, but you have no idea what could have happened if you just stayed away from it. You get what I'm saying? There's a cause and effect for everything. If somebody didn't have money to fund something, but you jump in it and say, I'm gonna control it and I got the money to manipulate and do everything, you are overstepping God. It's just like King David. We talk about King David, and King David was a man after God's heart. But when he took on Bathsheba, when he took on Uriah's wife, he overstepped. King David overstepped God, and he despised the commandments of God. And because of that, he got judged. So there are certain barriers that you just are not supposed to touch. There's certain things in life that you just keep your hands off of it. And I had to learn the hard way of involving myself in stuff that ain't have nothing to do with me. But now that I'm older, I realize certain things, just stay off of it. Stay off of it. Don't even get involved in it. Just, be a support. No, I'm sorry to hear, but I ain't touching that because that's not going to come from God. come on me. That's not gonna come on my blessings. That's not gonna mess with my conscience. That's not gonna hinder me from getting ahead, because what goes around, it really does come around. Whatsoever a man soweth, so shall he reap. What you do to others will come back on you. You may think like, and I've seen it happen to my own self. So that's why certain things I'm like, I ain't touching it. You said, do you forgive them both? Yeah, of course. I forgive them both. I forgive them both. For the longest time, it was hard for me to forgive my father-in-law. I don't know why. I had this big, it took a long time. It took a long time for me to forgive. What is this? It took a long time for me to forgive um, my father-in-law. I used to have like I used to imagine myself cursing him out. It took a very long time to forgive him, but now I do. I mean, he probably was doing it because he had love for his son and just wanted to do what his son wanted. Um, thank you, baby. But it took me a long time to forgive him. But I've been forgave him. I forgave him some years back. Um, what else is I about to say? Sorry, y'all. My daughter just went ahead and my daughter just went off. What is all of that? Sorry, I'm looking at these subscriptions. I didn't even know I had them. Okay. Yep. So I got those subscriptions. I got those canceled. So yeah, I've been forgave. I've been forgave my father-in-law and everybody. I forgave everybody. I don't even I've been forgave him because because it's like some people do things for other people because some want to be controlling, others may care for them, and I don't know what the motives were, but I feel like too with everything, it's a lesson to be learned in it, and I learned a lot. What did I learn? I learned, number one, I depend on God. Like, I've learned to be even more independent on God. Like, I love him so much. Like, when it was all over, I was crying with joy, like, thank you, Father. And then the amazing adventures God has taken me on. I've, I hate to say it, it's like I had more fun not being married than I was when I was married. I dealt with a lot of sorrow, and then the sorrow wasn't the bad part. I mean, it was bad because of the trials that we went through, but the worst part of it was just the whole divorce thing. But the sunshine after the storm, honey, was just, man, and the testimony behind it is just even more better. So no, I mean, I'm not tripping off of my father-in-law. What I mean, I remember saying one day, I think I remember saying this to him. I said, one day we'll laugh at this. We'll sit at the table and be like, remember that time you had that teleprompter? It's not the teleprompter. What's that lady that be typing in court? Because there's my father-in-law at the time. He wasn't good at hearing, so he paid extra so somebody can type it up so he can read through the scripts. He thought it was a sport. That it was absolutely wonderful. And that time where my husband at the time, he didn't even show up for court. He didn't show up. That they huddled together and said, "This is what we gonna do. We going we gonna use his father to sit in the seat, and you gonna sit on the other side, and the judge is gonna be right there." And I was like, that's what y'all attorneys go to school for, to learn how to do things. Crazy. So I guess when the 15th judge came in, I said, and it was like, oh, this is between last name versus last name. And I said, Your Honor, that's not my husband. Oh man. That's that's how nuts it was. You really go into a courtroom, and instead of you sitting on a bench in the back, because your son didn't show up and you were performing, you paid for this divorce, you show up and you sit in the seat like you gonna represent your son. Your son. I ain't never seen nothing like it. But when I look back at it, I can laugh at it because it was literally a spectacle. It was literally drama. I can write a book about that. Yeah, I have no idea. And that's just the tip of it. Some of the stuff that I seen was like attorneys just acting nuts in there. They were trying to use people. Like, I remember when his other attorney was like, guardian ad litem, she won't do this, she won't do that. And then I realized they all knew I didn't know everybody's positions. So they were using their titles to intimidate me until I became one of the players. And then when I became one of the players, I was like, what the heck is the guardian light I'm going to do to me? And then I looked at the guardian ad litem and was like, why are you siding up over there? And then I looked at them and realized, oh, so y'all all, it was like, God was like, oh, this is going to be fun. I want to use my daughter and I'm going to make her become an attorney uh, uh, without a license. And I literally became, I literally was like really timid, like, I was like in court, how you just, Your Honor, yes, because When you go to court, you're like, look at me, look what's going on with me. Can you have some compassion? They didn't care. They didn't care. They didn't give it, they don't care about truth or anything like that. It's only laws. It's like playing Uno. You got to put down the right card. You got to put down the yellow card. You got to draw four. It's like playing spades. So you know what I did? I went back and put on a suit. And since everybody want to play hard, I was like, okay, let's do it. I was like, all right, Lord. And I prayed every single time I went up in there. And then the more and more and the more I started to learn, and then I got to know the clerks too. I was like, hey, girl, what's going on? I got to know the clerks. I was like, what's going on? How the kids doing? Oh, yeah. Yeah, oh, girl. Yeah. You know that's bad. You know that's bad. You know that's bad when you got to know the clerks, honey. Look, it got to the point I started talking to his attorneys and stuff. We was just talking. Next thing we laughing and stuff like that. It just got really like it was just you had to. Oh gosh, I don't ever want to go through that ever again. It's just because some people, like I said, they abuse the system. Don't ever want to go through that ever again. But that dude, not only was he trying to make me pay for the division of my family, man, that dude cutthroat. He must have been, I can give it to my father-in-law. Back in his heyday, he must have been like a real ruthless lawyer. Because anytime you cause attorneys to go against your daughter-in-law, your grand new only grandchild at the time, and then daggone well the financial burden of what your daughter-in-law is going through, and you try to get the attorneys to sue me for $30,000 of a divorce that you funded. You evil. You evil, man. Like that was evil. That was evil. That was as what my husband would have said back in the day. That was bad form. That's wrong. That was wrong on so many levels. When I think about it, I'm like, dang, man, I ate at your table. And again, what I have learned from it is I just learned that no matter how intimidating and how big it look, is that always remember this: if God before you, can nobody be against you. Giants do fall. Trouble don't last always. And at the end of the day, what I've learned is that the people who you think are so holy and so righteous, they're not. They're not. They put on this what? Selling off American oil reserves. Oh gosh, what's going on here? Um, they're not. I'm just like I said, I'm just glad it's over with. I'm glad that was some years ago. Could you imagine me having to explain to my daughter? So what happened to you and daddy? It's a long story, baby. A long story. I don't even want to explain that to her. Just be like, things just, daddy just, I don't know. But you know what the highlight of the whole divorce, though, was my parents. At one point in time when I was going to court, I was going there by myself. I was dishing it out. I was in that joint, dishing it out. Just dishing it out. And my mother decided, well, I'm just going to go with you. My mother saw me in court and was like, I'm going to go with you from now on, okay? And I'm like, okay. She was like, you are not going to go through this by yourself. And I remember my father and my mother going with me. And I remember looking at them, and I was thinking, like, I'm wondering how they thinking, because they too going through divorce, and you see how messed up it was. I remember when I was on the thing and I was telling the judge how I fasted. I really fasted. I didn't want a divorce. But I'm gonna tell you what I saw in the court. I saw other women too that were begging their husbands not to get. I saw women left or right being put away. Some didn't even speak English. Some was trying to speak to their husbands. Husbands was like, "No, you get away from here. No, well, please, please, no, I don't care." And I was like, "Damn." Now, excuse my mouth. But can y'all imagine back in the day when you pleading to your husband, please don't stone me to death. I swear on everything I did not fornicate before we got married. And some of them didn't. But the husband was like, get away from me. I'm gonna get you stoned anyway. Oh, I'm so grateful. I'm so grateful I didn't live. If this was back in the day, hell, if it was 60 years ago, my black behind wouldn't dealing with my husband. Please, they would have threw me in jail and took my daggone baby if it was shoot 80 years ago. You know what I'm saying? Jim Crow and all of them. Please, I wouldn't have had a chance. But if I was back like biblical times, man, them chicks had it bad. Do you know how many women probably got popped and killed by their own husbands and they didn't even do it? I was thinking like I'm at my husband's mercy for him to call off the whole the thing that really got me about him is that he had the power to say, leave my wife alone. He had the power to say, don't put her out. He had the power to say, leave her alone, Dad. She just had the baby. We'll deal with it. He had the power in his hands. And he still was like, mm. And, because I was praying and I was doing everything. He had the power. He had the power. I never ever want to be put back in that situation ever again. Ever again. He had the power to stop it. And he just was like, nope. And I believe that God was just looking to see how far and testing my husband to see how far are you going to go. Oh. Then it was like, okay, enough is enough. Bam, because at the end of the day, I was crying to God. I was like, Lord, I need you. I need your help, Father. My husband he's not, I need you. I need you. And what time is it? I'm sorry, y'all. They've been playing this song that's going viral. And I saw a little girl dancing to this song with a bonnet on. She got her little uniform, whatever. And she posted a little video, but the song is really the song is not appropriate for children. It's not. And I said, "Does your parents know that you're on this and this music is not for kids?" And she said, "Thank you for your concern. I've just checked the lyrics of the song and I'm sorry for the inconvenience. I'm not going to take the video down because many people use it and even younger than me. And please don't ask about my parents because they is not your concern. They are well aware for my age." And I'm like, "Little girl." She was like, "And please don't ask about your parent." Yeah, I don't need to be talking to you. I need to be talking to your mom and your dad. Put them on. Put them on. She gonna tell me you don't need to be concerned about my age because, and please don't ask about my parents. That's what's wrong with these kids these days. Because my little daughter, that little girl looked like she's every bit of 9 years old. My daughter would not be on this. Okay. And I, matter of fact, I shouldn't even. Please don't talk to. I need to reply and be like, please don't talk to me unless you have a parent to respond. I don't talk to children. I'm just a warning. That's when you got all types of crazy people looking at children. She should not be on here. She's too young, and I don't give a damn. I'm mom at the end of the day, and an aunt, and an auntie. So somebody need to check their daughter because she's well aware in her room doing a video with music that is not meant for a child. So whatever. Let me get off of that. Sorry, y'all. I just saw that this person responded. Yeah. So yeah. So yeah, that happened. So where was I at, y'all? People nuts. And please don't ask about my mom. Like, baby, I'm grown. I can't believe I'm whatever. I ain't even got time for that. That's somebody's kid. I guarantee you your parents don't know because you in that daggone room. Tell your mother and your father to respond back. But anywho, that's what happened with that. But and anyway, I'm just so happy that that's just old news now. Like I don't ever want to go through that. Oh, ever want to go through that again. I don't ever want to go through that again. Never going through that again. Nope, nope. Never going through that again. Nope, nope. I don't ever. That was. um. I never want to go through that again. I used to at the beginning though. I used to at the beginning think that, oh, it can be mended. You know, we can get back. Everything will be okay. Now I don't believe that. I don't believe that we will reconcile, and it's fine. Again, I have forgiven him. I've forgiven his father and his mother too. I was shown his mother was sick because after the two court hearings, she stopped coming. She was like, I'm not gonna be going up to this court every single day. Forget that. I'm out. But that father, he was determined. He couldn't stand me, and he knew. He knew. You love him so much. I'm gonna make sure. This is how he was. I'm gonna make sure. I'm gonna make sure. He was like, I'm gonna make sure that you get a divorce. Well, hope you got what you wanted, sir. But Dag, I really wish you would have. I guess that would be a cruel punishment, I suppose, to make sure that you get a divorce from your husband, meaning that you'll never have any affection ever again, and you can never bear children anymore. With his evil villain laugh. I don't know. Like, I mean, if that made you feel so wonderfully good to do that to your daughter in law, if that made you feel just powerful, then man, you ain't right. That's bad. That's bad form. So, some people be, I don't know, I've never been that way. I've always been kind and sweet to other people. I've always been cautious of everybody's feelings too. I don't ever want to hurt nobody's feelings, and I don't want anybody to take me the wrong way or think that I would ever. Always been that way. Always. I've always tried to do for others. You know, I've always tried to be kind and sweet and understanding. And I never made a big what to do about it. I never made a big what to do about it. Because what you do in secret, God will reward you in full. But God knows, He knows my heart. He knows my heart. Always been kind to people. I would have never did those things. I would have never did those things. Me. If my son got married to a woman and all of a sudden he wanted a divorce and didn't want to deal with that, I'm going to be very honest with you. If my son decided that he wanted to divorce his newly wife who just bared my grandchild and he whining and stuff, I probably would have cursed my son out and said, "You ain't got to go home, but you gonna get the hell out of here." I would have told my son the seriousness of marriage and how you wanted to get married. You wanted to walk down the aisle. You wanted to do all of this, and just because y'all didn't got into it, don't mean that it's over. You know, I would have done it. I still have the someone's telling me that I really need to get rid of it, but I wanted to keep it just for symphony's sake. I still have the voicemail when my in-laws was like, "My shopping. He's coming down here for a day and then he's gonna come back to you." And I was like, okay. And I'm thinking that he was gonna be gone for just that one day, like going over his parents' house, which they were only like at that time Mondays like 20 minutes away. That stuff turned into freaking forever. That's why it was such a shock. It came out of nowhere. That's why it's so different because somebody was talking about runaway husbands is when it just completely is a shock. It came out of nowhere. Like it really did come out of nowhere. Like we were on cloud nine about to have a baby to divorce. It was like spiritually, like as soon as I had my daughter, my husband was like, "I hate you." So I hate you, I hate you, I hate you. Um, they're all hell broke loose.
10 reasons why you should.
Um, but again, I feel like another thing too. I feel like that happened like 30 years ago. I feel like it happened so long ago. It happened in 2013. Shoot, how long did it happen? Oh, Mona, that's right. Wait a minute, something's not adding up here. Y'all, it happened 10 years ago. Come November, even, I don't even know. Come November of this year, next month, I think it'll be my 10-year divorce, 10-year divorcee, I suppose, my anniversary of going to court. I don't even know. I need to keep track of that stuff. And I hate it, to be honest with you. I hate, really, honestly, I try not to relive those times or whatever, but it does remind you. I mean, I am in a situation that I am in right now, which I'm in a good situation, but I'm still trying to understand how is it that I only have. I need to. How many miles? This thing got 12,000 miles on it. 12,000 miles on it. So sorry y'all. It's about time for me to go to bed. So what was I saying? So yeah, so that's it and that's all. Do I ever, and people used to be like, do you ever think that he would know? No. I think when people realize they did something wrong, when they realize they did something wrong, they will come back. Now, years ago, the man that I thought I knew, oh, I knew he was going to be back the next day. Shoot, I could have, if I had $100,000, I would have bet, man, my husband gonna be back home tomorrow. I would have been $100,000 short. I would have bet, nah, he coming back next week. Next week was 2, 3. It was just a shock. I just couldn't believe you could love somebody and don't even know them like that. I don't mean no daggone harm. I know I married who I married, but I used to have these visions, and I talk about it all the time, of being left out to sea and thinking like, oh, my husband, he's coming, he's gonna come. There's been times too before he used to drop me off and pick me up, you know? He used to drop me off long distance and pick me up. He didn't come. And then I'd be like, I used to like have visions of, they need to stop it. I used to have visions of just like thoughts of, my husband, he's gonna come and get me. Let's just say I'm out to sea and I'm floating and he knows where my location is. He'll come, he'll come. Never did. But then it's like God built me a raft. He built me a raft and he gave me some cloth and he blew and we set sail. I was in the ocean with a baby, a dog, and some cats. And I would visualize getting off of that raft and walking onto the beach and seeing my husband in one of them hamlets and things, you laying back with the coconut trees and his parents just fanning him. And I'm like, and you left me out there like that? You left me out there like that? But the best part about it is it's just God took me off of that and brought me onto a whole nother level. So it is what it is. Do I regret marrying the dude? No, because I'm grateful about my daughter. Um, I am grateful, grateful for, grateful I got my daughter. Um, I lost a great bit. I lost a great deal of respect for his parents. I used to really respect them. I used to think they were very high class, very classy. No, they're not. And then his sister too. I felt like his sister really hurt me because it was her husband who served me the papers, and they all knew it was like a family affair. It was like he manipulated people to do. My father-in-law manipulated people to do what he wanted to do. It was like a family affair to hurt the family member. And whether you like it or not, your daughter-in-law, your son-in-law, first marriage people I'm talking about, that's actually family. At one point in time, my mother-in-law used to be a girlfriend to my father-in-law, and now she's a wife, if she's still around. But to treat me, and even in the Bible talks about in these days, mother-in-law and daughter-in-law be going against each other, and just all of this other type stuff. You forget that we were family, and um, it didn't have to go like that. But am I not grateful in where I'm at? I'm very grateful. I'm comfortable too. And I don't ever, if I ever had a chance to go back to where I used to be, no, not at all. Not at all. Not at all. Mm-mm. I'm grateful where I'm at. I love my peace. I love my home. I like that I can come and go. I like that God gave me my own. I I can't. I can't. And I'm not gonna lie. I do feel that I do feel that I do feel that hold on real quick. I do feel that I do feel that what's the word? I do I do feel in the, it's not that I when you've been hurt like that, you don't even want to be in a relationship. Like even if my husband died, I wouldn't even want to be in a relationship. And I'm not saying that all men are like that and all husbands would do that to their wives, but I don't ever want to go through that again. Like, I never want to go through that ever again. There's two things that I wanted. I wanted a long lasting marriage, and I wanted to have a bunch of children to give to my husband. I went through a really hard time with my pregnancies. I don't want to have any more babies. I can't have any more babies because, of course, it takes a man to do that, right? Um, and I only have one living child, and that's my daughter. Her father, I respect him enough that that's her dad. Would I ever want to be back with him and under him? I would like to maybe have a conversation with him over the phone, but meeting and holding hands and all of that, no. I wouldn't I I forgive him, but I would never trust him ever again. I don't think I would. I'm trying to be realistic. I wouldn't trust him ever again. And I think he knows that. That's why he won't ever come around to apologize, because some people can be so embarrassed by what they did, and sometimes some people don't. But the that me wanting to be under him and with him and as his wife and all this other stuff, and and another thing too, it's like I lost my identity by trying to be a woman for him, that I lost my way. And it was just like my entire world was just about him. It was it was just to cater to him. And I think in life everybody wants to be loved. So when you have somebody that just deliberately don't love you and just want to get rid of you, and it's a hurtful thing. And even our daughter, just to not even acknowledge her, and it was hurtful. So I don't ever want to be in that situation again. You said, okay, the wound. didn't heal, but daggone it, that gash was a beast, baby. I don't ever want to go through that again. I don't want to go through that with nobody. That's the thing. And I know some people are like, but that's because you've been. I don't care. You can call it what you want to call it. I'm good right here, and I'm good where God wants me to be. I trust God, and I don't ever want to go back to that place in time. I don't ever want to go back to that place in time. It was just harsh and horrible. I wouldn't even that's why I feel like lately God hasn't shown me anything about him. And the reason why is because God doesn't want me to focus on him. When people get to a certain level in their life where they don't acknowledge or don't repent or they're doing things they're not supposed to do, God will take you away from them. And then at one point in time, you got to realize it is literally for the best. Um, it is literally for the best. So I feel like it was, I think, at first I didn't understand why I was really hurt, but I really feel like it was for the best. And you may be going through a certain situation and you may not even wonder why did these things happen. And I'm not going back and be like, oh, we should have, it is what it is, but I don't want to deal with that. I don't want to go back in time. I don't even want to, if he called and be like, could we meet here? I'd be like, why? Who's going to be there? I wouldn't. People can hurt you to the point that you get really afraid of just being around that person. You see what I'm saying? Like you just like no thanks. So sometimes it's good to acknowledge what happened. I'm about to get off of this, y'all. I've been on this thing for a long time. I'm getting tired. Sometimes you can acknowledge what happened and you can just live through it and just be like, what, thank you, Lord, I got out of it. Because you got a lot of folks, man, they went through some mess and some people didn't make it out of it. I'm just so grateful that I ain't never going back there, baby. Couldn't make me go back there. You couldn't make me go back to that time. And I appreciate that I don't have to worry about the dealings of the world when it comes to relationships, that I can literally just focus on what I want to do. Sometimes I may get lonely, but only for 2 seconds, and then I'm back like, so I'm grateful to be at where I'm at right now. And that's free. Anyway, I've had enough. I've been on here talking. I don't even, yeah, when I get tired, I just start talking gibberish. I just start talking gibberish. Anyway, y'all have a blessed night. Also, don't be touching things y'all ain't supposed to touch. You don't understand the reactions of other people's lives and what you. But I also feel like God definitely had his hand in it, and I'm in a better place, in a better space than I was before. Anyway, y'all have a blessed night tonight.